Hello and welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is the one, the only Wayne Ridenauer in Memphis, Tennessee. And Larry Gardner may join us a little late. He is stuck in another overtime battle at his son's football game. You can find us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Apple and Spotify, of course. Personal X's at JJ Get You One, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, who is out umpiring some ball games tonight, and at LG for real, though, for the PA voice of your Rome Braves, Larry Gardner. Wayne, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing really good, man. Texas is in the World Series. Only problem is there's no baseball on tonight or tomorrow night, so that's going to be weird.
Yeah, a little weird. Last time Texas was in the World Series, it's the year my sister got married and the Cardinals made the comeback. So
Right.
I'm very, very sorry for you on that note, but I'm doing just well. I've been getting ready for the SIAC Game of the Week. The Lane Dragons travel to Wilberforce, Ohio to take on the Central State Marauders. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Saturday on ESPN+. Todd Corder, co-host, will be on the play-by-play, and I will be on the color commentary. What's on tap for today's show? Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, joins us to talk a little football and basketball, and of course the Pick Six. A lot going on in the sports world, but we're going to be quick tonight. And without further ado, we welcome our guest, the Georgia State football voice. Georgia State's 6-1 overall in Sun Belt play, 3-1. With that in mind, we do bring back Dave Cohen. Joins the show. Dave, how you doing? Good to have you back on.
Good to be back with you guys. Great win on the road. Exciting ending at Louisiana Lafayette on Saturday night. And as we knew, quick turnaround because it's Georgia Southern week, and Georgia State and Georgia Southern Thursday night from Paulson Stadium in Statesboro. But yeah, 6-1, 3-1 in Sun Belt Conference play. Maybe the defensive play of the year so far. Gavin Pringle interception in the end zone with 30 seconds to go, and it looked like the Ragin' Cajuns were driving to the Georgia State 7-yard line. It looked like that they might hold on and come back and beat us, but Pringle made a huge play defensively. Like I said, through 7 games, definitely the defensive play of the year. And now Georgia State looking to make it 4 in a row in their rivalry series with Georgia Southern. Panthers have won the last 3. And looking forward to a crazy, electric, exciting atmosphere down in Statesboro on Thursday night.
Should be a good one. Dave, before we get into Georgia State, all this news out of Ann Arbor, Michigan sign stealing scandal. Got to ask your thoughts on that news.
Not surprised. You see on college football sidelines, guys holding up signs, holding up items to block the vision of signals and signs being relayed into quarterbacks. Look, it goes on in baseball, as we well know. It's been extremely well documented. Everybody's trying to get an upper hand, an advantage that they can, and sign stealing's been going on for years. I kind of like what Deion Sanders said. You could have my whole playbook. At the end of the day, your players have got to go on the field, whether they know what we're going to do or not, and make the plays, whether it's defensively, whether it's offensively. As I've said all the time, and I know schools, different coaches have different names for plays and signs, whatever. At the end of the day, guys, you can run with the football, you can throw the football, or you can kick the football. We are not talking about nuclear science here.
Right.
And he, with the best players and the most talented players and the bigger and faster and stronger players, more often than not is going to come out on top at the end of whatever game it is that we're talking about. It's been going on for years in baseball. It came to the forefront with the Houston Astros a couple years ago with the banging of the trash cans and, video cameras in the outfield and center field, trying to steal the catcher's signs. It's been going on forever. And you know what? they're always going to try to find a way. Teams are always going to try to find a way to get an upper hand and a little more insight as to what to expect from whoever their opponent is. So I'm not surprised. And I think I got to agree. I heard a guy on, I think it was Jeff Saturday, the former Indianapolis Colt, saying on, it was a little video cut on Twitter, saying very similar to what I just said. It's been going on. It goes on. It's always going to go on. Someone's always going to try to steal the sign. But that at the end, he thought it was being a little bit more blown out of proportion as far as it being an actual story than it really is. And of course, we live in a hypersensitive media world with a very quick news cycle, whether it's social media, whether it's over-the-air TV, cable TV, what have you. So I kind of agree with Jeff Saturday. I don't know him. I've never met him, but I agree with what he said in the video snippet that I saw, that probably a little bit blown out of proportion as to the level of interest in that particular story.
Yeah, Georgia holds up polls behind the guy who's calling their sign with like a cloth sheet around it. You see a lot of things. A couple players, coaches. Matt Rule said, with his NFL experience, we need to put helmets and the headsets in the helmet and mics in the helmet, so the OCs and the quarterback coaches and the head coaches can talk to the quarterback until 30 seconds or 25 seconds, whatever they deserve. Maybe that'll cut out some of it, but I'm with you. I don't think it's that big of a story. I think everybody's tried to do it in some sense of way. I like what Coach Prime said. I also like what Coach James Franklin said, Dave, about, I could go home, DVR a game and get pretty much a good sense of the signs just from a couple different angles. So I think it's pretty easy if you want to go and get the signs. It's a lot easier than sending a guy to 30 different ball games and stuff like that. So I think it's it's just to each his own on how you steal them, I guess. For being speculating here, but you get my drift.
Well, I saw something else. It was either on Twitter or Facebook, and it was a still picture of one of the coaches in the NFL. I can't remember, and I'm going to use a prop here. He put up his play sheet, the piece of paper or the piece of cardboard they have that has a list of all their potential plays.
Yeah.
And I guess when the quarterback or one of the players came over to talk to him during a timeout, he held this up like catchers hold up their catcher's mask or a mitt so that nobody can read their lips. Now, let me ask you, if I'm a head coach, I know with the light hitting this, can you see what's on this piece of paper?
Sometimes.
No.
I mean, I've seen some that you can kind of make out what's on there, especially that guy that was the offensive or defensive coach for Dallas. Used to have the long gray hair. You could kind of make out pictures of bikini women and whatnot on the back of his.
By the time you would take a still photo, try to actually read what's written on there, which is all written in code anyway, the game would be 3 weeks behind. The game would have been played 3 weeks ago by the time you figure it all out. Like you said, JJ, all you got to do is go home and watch a football game with two teams, and you can see what their tendencies are. You can see what players are running what plays. Now, you may not know, if you were trying to steal signals, exactly what play is going to be called each time the ball is snapped. But if you watch it, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what they do if you got a great quarterback. Let's take Georgia State, for example. Is there anybody who plays us that doesn't know Darren Granger is going to run with the football a lot? Is there anybody that doesn't know that Marcus Carroll's one of the top running backs in the Sun Belt and Robert Lewis is one of the top wide receivers in the league? Of course. They're going to be involved in X number of plays. I mean, Robert Lewis is going to be a passing target X number of plays. Marcus Carroll's going to get 20 to 30 carries a football game, more than likely. Yeah. I just think we make a whole lot more of it than, sports talk radio and a news cycle and Twitter and Facebook got to constantly have new content in order to stay fresh. And
right.
a lot of times the content to me is not really as big a deal as it's made out to be.
Yeah.
Let's flip back over to Georgia State. You talked about it in your beginning statements there. Historic win for the Panthers last week. What did Coach Elliott have to say about the win?
Well, obviously, they were ecstatic to get out of Louisiana with a W. We had played them 6 times and had never beaten them. Had come close the last 2 times, lost in overtime in Atlanta, and then lost I forget if it was a 3 or a 6, whatever point game, the last time we were in Lafayette. I think that they know that they're fortunate to have gotten out of there with a win. We missed an opportunity with a fumble at the 1-yard line when Marcus Carroll tried to stretch the ball across the goal line, and they knocked it out of his hands and recovered it and returned it to the 32. There's 7 points off the board that we should have had in the first quarter. We score 20 in the second quarter, and then we don't score again in the second half period. So very complimentary of our defensive effort in the second half. Cherry on top with the Gavin Pringle interception, but the defense really battened down the hatches to the best of their ability in the second half against what is a pretty good Louisiana team with a young quarterback. So for Georgia State, look, a great win. And you know what I said? I didn't say this on the radio. I said this to somebody off the air. I said a year ago, we lose that game. A year ago, we don't make that big play in the second half or with 30 seconds to go.
Yeah.
That's a game that last year falls into one of the 8 losses, all those close losses a year ago. And I did say this on the radio. You could feel the momentum swing from our side at the end of the second half to early in the third quarter when they started to get their offense in gear. They really didn't do much of anything, obviously, offensively in the first half. You could almost see visibly the momentum waft from our sideline over to their sideline when they started making plays. And that's what kind of had me worried. It was 20-17, and they're at our 7-yard line with 30 seconds or 45 seconds, whatever it was to play.
Knocking on the door there.
And I'm thinking, here we go. It's going to be another game that's going to come down to the final play, and we're going to get out of here with a big old L. But Pringle, and I interviewed Gavin early on Wednesday for our pregame show, and I had him kind of recap in his mind the whole play, and he said he was supposed to blitz, but then reacting in split-second fashion to player movement by Louisiana, he didn't blitz. He shaded back a little bit,
all right,
into the end zone. So that's why I said, sometimes you can plan, you can relay in all the signs you want of where you want your guys to be, but at the end of the day, and that's a perfect example, instinct took over. When you watch enough film, you've studied your opponent long and hard enough, and you understand, not all, but some of their tendencies, and when they start to make, when players start to go in motion, knowing in a split second not to blitz, but to hang back. He made the right decision, and it certainly paid off with the biggest play defensively so far this year.
Yeah, it was huge. It was fun to watch. I was watching it on the old TV. Sorry, Dave.
Should have been listening.
A beautiful play, and it really got me pumped up. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna talk to Dave next week. We're gonna talk about a big play, so I was pretty happy about that. We'll move forward to tomorrow night's game. Who's the real GSU rivalry? They're calling it Modern Day Hate. I love the name of the rivalry. Build the brand of the rivalry. Georgia State travels to Statesboro, Georgia, to take on the Eagles. Your keys to success for a Panthers win tomorrow night.
Well, I was on the Georgia Southern radio show the other day, and the cool thing about it is there's been extreme highs and there's been extreme lows for both teams already, and they've only played 9 times in football. Historically, the Georgia State-Georgia Southern rivalry goes back to the old days of the Trans-America Athletic Conference, and it was really a basketball rivalry and maybe a tiny bit baseball. Once Georgia State added football, and Georgia Southern left the Southern Conference for the Sun Belt, the rivalry now went to another level, as you would imagine. Remember back in 2014, first time the two teams met at the Georgia Dome, Georgia Southern came into Atlanta and beat us 69-31. And that was the first shot fired, for lack of a better pun there, between Georgia State and Georgia Southern. Remember what happened in 2015. Georgia State goes down to Statesboro, 5-6 on the year, needing one win to become bowl eligible, and hands Georgia Southern the worst loss in the history of Paulson Stadium, 34-7. They get win number 6, and they end up getting an invitation to the Auto Nation Cure Bowl down in Orlando. Just fantastic. From extreme low for Georgia State to an extreme high on the road the next year. Well, Georgia Southern, because they do have a relatively long history and tradition with football dating back to Irk Russell in the early 80s, resurrecting the program. And they've got 6 national championships. Look, Georgia Southern's has had a great program at the FCS level, and they transitioned to the Sun Belt very well. And, Clay Helton has elevated that program now to kind of what Sean Elliott has done at Georgia State. And I'm looking forward to a great atmosphere coming up on Thursday night down there. It's national television as well as the radio network. They're, what are they, 5-2, and we're 6-1. Both teams coming off wins over the Louisiana teams. We beat Louisiana's Ragin' Cajuns. They beat the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe. The interesting thing about Georgia Southern, if you have followed their program really for any length of time, but more so in recent years, they were well known under Irk Russell to be a running team. They were the face, or among the faces, along with a couple of the service academies, of running the triple option. You remember Paul Johnson, the former Georgia Tech coach, former Navy coach. Well, he was at Georgia Southern, I believe following Irk Russell. There may be a coach in between that I'm not remembering. So, their template, and they ran it well, was to run that ball to the left, run it to the right, run it right over you. They were going to run the football, and you knew that. Again, perfect example. You don't need to steal any signs. Georgia Southern back in the day was going to run the football, and they were very successful at it. Well, fast forward now with the last 2 quarterbacks that have come into that program, and I'm just referencing back to the most recent 2, including the Davis Brin kid who's there now that transferred from Tulsa. The previous kid, I think, had come in from Buffalo. They're now again, balanced, but they throw the football a whole lot more than they have thrown it historically down in Statesboro. It would almost be a shocker when you saw them throw the football in a game down there back when Irk Russell was there, back when Paul Johnson was there. They many times didn't even put the ball in the air 10 times in a game. But they're very successful now, and a lot more balanced now, running the football. And they have brought in, again, transfer quarterbacks, the last 2 guys that have made them very, very competitive. They're just one piece of the puzzle, guys, of why the Sun Belt's Eastern Division is as tough as it is.
That's really impressive what Clay Helton's done down there, going from West Coast over here to East Coast. And this rivalry is building up to be a doozy for years to come. Sun Belt's building up its street cred, as the kids are saying. And it should be one hell of a ball game. Dave, tell our listeners how they can catch the call, as always. And before we let you go, folks, you're listening to Dave Cohen right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can catch Dave on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, X at GA State Voice. Dave, how do we catch the call?
Well, let me say this before I give you that info. The great thing about Georgia State, Georgia Southern, the rivalry, in the state of Georgia, so much of the focus was on Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And now there's another rivalry. With Georgia, it was small town, Georgia Tech, Atlanta. You got the same thing going on in this one at the group of 5 level. Georgia State, downtown Atlanta. You can't get any more Atlanta than Georgia State. Then you got small town Statesboro. So it's urban and rural at the opposite ends of the spectrum in college football. And like I said, both programs have been really good for each other in creating and maintaining the interest in what's going on. But you can hear us tomorrow night. It's a 7:30 kickoff, 7 o'clock airtime on our 50,000 watt flagship radio station in Atlanta, 88.5 FM, WRAS, North Georgia, Gainesville and Hall County, and so on and so forth at 97.5 FM, WGTJ. You can download the GSU Athletics mobile app to your iPhone or your iPad, and it's an easy way to listen. One of my favorite apps for your listening audience is an app called Radio Garden.
Yeah.
Really cool app. You just search WRAS, and it takes one tap of the finger, and I'll be there. And looking forward to it. Getting ready to head to Statesboro late Thursday morning, and kicking that puppy off. We'll be on the air at 7, kickoff 7:30. Looking forward to it.
And I'll be listening in. I'm not going to watch the broadcast on the old national television. I'm listening on 88.5. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. Thanks for coming on, Dave. And as always, go Panthers.
All right, appreciate it. Hopefully we'll talk to you next week after a big old W.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll talk to you soon, Dave. Have a good call tomorrow night.
All right, thank you. You guys take it easy.
Yes, sir. Dave Cohen, again, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. You can find him on Twitter at GA State Voice. Wayne, it's just you and me. Looks like Larry's overtime game is consuming him again, which is totally fine. Folks, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, give us a follow on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, give us a thumbs up on the old YouTube, react on Facebook, whatever you do on Instagram, give us a heart. Not that good on Instagram yet, need to get better. Let's get into it. It's time for the ATL Prime Sports Pick 6. We picked 6 football games. Lines and spread are from Monday per Caesars Sportsbook. This week, it's number 1 Georgia, 7-0, versus Florida, 5-2. UGA's 14.5-point favorites. The over-under in this one is 49. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on CBS. I said it for the third Saturday in October rivalry. I'll say it for this one. Folks, it's the last time it'll be on CBS. The last time you'll hear the do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. For this bad boy, Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. Georgia and Florida both have really good defensive units. 7th in the country for Georgia, 34th. Tied for 34th for the Gators at 20 points per game. Key in this game, Wayne's going to be third down. UGA's number 1 in the nation. Number 1 in the nation in third down stops. Teams only convert 24% of their third downs against the Dogs. Florida converts third down at a 33% rate. So that's going to be huge there. But there's a but here. Georgia does need to watch out for them because in games where they convert more than 45% of their first downs, the Gators are 3-0. So third down's a huge key here. Georgia is top 3 in yards per game, averaging over 509 yards per game. They're top 6 in points per game, right at 41 a game. So the Bobo haters can calm down now. Look, Dogs show why Brock Bowers isn't the only player on offense. The Dogs cover. They need a big win. They need to climb back up into these rankings. Georgia covers. I'll tee it off. Wayne, what say you?
Well, I'm going to take Georgia to cover as well, even though there's a lot of points are given up there. And really, I think that if Georgia would just stick to their game plan, they should be fine. But Florida is the one that's going to have to really, really, really want it in order to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I think so. We have the incoming picks from Larry and Todd. Georgia covers from Larry and Georgia covers from TC. So we're all going with the Dogs on game number 1. Number 2, number 8. Oregon, 6-1 on the road, traveling to Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, Utah 6-1. Oregon is 7-point road dogs. 7-point road favorites, I should say. Why did I say that? Over under that one's 49, 3:30 p.m. on the old Fox. The Utes made me look bad last week at top 10 defense, and look, Barnes played really well last week, the quarterback, filling in for now Cam Rising for the whole season. But look, Dan Lanning has this Kirby Smart mentality in him.
Yeah.
You can hear it in his pregame speeches. You can see it in his passion. The Ducks can bring the lumber on defense. They're right there with the top 16, 17 in the country, allowing 17 points per game. And this offense can score. Bo Nix is a Heisman candidate for a reason, and they are flying high, pun intended, nearly 50 points a game at 47. They're right up there with one of the best offenses in terms of yards per game. So I've got to take the Ducks to cover the 7 on the road over the Utah Utes. You got to do it. I just think Dan Lannin's gonna out physical Utah. One of the few teams that can do it. The Ducks fly high. Wayne, what say you?
Well, I'm going to say this. I believe in Coach Lanning and Oregon football, and so I'm taking them to cover in this game.
I just hope Utah doesn't burn me again.
Yeah.
I know I have a friend that's a big Utah fan, but I just, that passing attack scares me. I think they had a great game last week, a great game plan versus Caleb Williams and the Trojans. But this is a different animal. Dan Lanning has got this team focused. Larry takes Utah in the points at home, and TC is also taking the Ducks to fly high. Number 3, last college game of the weekend. Number 22, they're 5-2 at number 18, Louisville, who comes in at 6-1, ranked 18th in the country. Louisville's a 4-point favorite. The over/under in this one, 46. 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. Wayne, what say you? We'll let you do this last one first.
Well, to me, it sounds like a basketball game. It doesn't. Whenever I hear Duke and Louisville, I do not think football. But that being the case, I'm going to take Duke in the points here. I think they're going to be able to beat Louisville at home.
This is a really tough game to pick. This is the one I had to look at the longest. Louisville lost to Pitt 2 weeks ago, so they got a bad taste in their mouth. Duke lost to Florida State last week, leading much of the game until quarterback Riley Leonard got a little banged up, the high ankle sprain. Both teams are in the hunt for the ACC title game with a win, but I feel like Coach Elko and this top 5 D will put up a fight and lose by a field goal.
Oh,
I'm going with Duke in the points as well. I'm holding my breath on this one because this is the toughest one.
right.
Louisville could run them out of the. I mean, they played a really good Notre Dame team and beat them. So both these teams played Notre Dame. Duke lost. Louisville won. Both have hosted Notre Dame. So the Irish were the road team in this one. So this is really tough to pick. I went Duke in the points. You went Duke in the points. Larry went Duke in the points. Todd goes Duke in the points.
No,
so we're very similar this week.
No love for the what are they again? The Cardinals.
Cardinals.
No love for the Cardinals.
No love for the Cardinals right now. But I did say that I think they'll win the game by 3 points. So I picked the Cardinals to win. That's why I'm going Duke in the points. I think it'll be a really close game. I think Elko and that top-ranked defense, what are they? Let me look at my notes. They're like top 5. Yeah, like top 5 in the country. I think the defense will keep Duke and the Blue Devils in that ball game. Let's flip over to the NFL, our 4th game of the weekend of the Pick 6. 4-3 Falcons travel to the Tennessee Titans, who are 2-4, battling injuries. Atlanta's 2-point road favorites. Over/under in this one's 37. 2 bad offenses at the moment. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the old CBS. Tannehill is a big question mark for Sunday's game with the right high ankle sprain. You have Willis and Will Levis are expected to both play for Mike Vrabel via the NFL Network. That means a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong, because Atlanta is allowing only 95.3 rushing yards per ball game, which is 8th in the league and 3rd best in yards per game on that defensive side of the ball. They are pesky, and this is one of the better defenses since the Falcons in the 80s. I like the first place Falcons to cover. The Falcons cover. What say you, Wayne?
Well, I'm taking the Falcons to cover, and it's a 2-point spread. And the first thing that I can think of whenever I see a 2-point spread is a certain Korean kicker. I mean, how many times has he pushed them over the edge to win a game in the last seconds?
Oh, man, he's done it a lot. He's been one of the NFL's best, and he's a Sun Belt guy, Georgia Southern kicker. So really, really pretty cool. Georgia Southern's got a couple of them. I know we've mentioned a couple times. Tyler Bass is also from Georgia Southern. So pretty cool. And then you got Will Lutz, I think in Denver now. It was no longer on New Orleans. Larry takes the Falcons, and Todd takes the Falcons. No one's gaining any ground this weekend, really. We'll see what happens. 5th game of the weekend, Jags 5-2 travel to Pittsburgh, take on the 4-2 surging Steelers. Jacksonville's 2.5-point road favorites, over under 42. 1:00 p.m. on CBS. Both Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are in the middle of the pack in terms of scoring defense. Pittsburgh has a little bit more trouble scoring, near the bottom of the league with 17 points per game. I think they're like 29th or 30th, right around that number. While the Jags and quarterback Trevor Lawrence are 9th, scoring over 24 a game. Better quarterback on the other side. I think Doug Peterson's coaching these guys up. Got a great defense, and they got Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. Got a great wide receiver core. Evan Ingram back there. Trevor Etienne is playing at an elite level in the backfield. Having great fantasy success if you're a fantasy football manager like myself. I got to go Jags to cover on the road. Wayne, what say you?
Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville to cover as well. And the Steelers this year, I don't think are quite what the fans want, but the Jacksonville, I think, just steadily improves as they go. So I'm taking Jacksonville.
Yep. Larry is, drum roll please, taking the Jags as well. And TC is taking his Steelers, and we all know why. Wife, if you watch the show, he can't pick against the Steelers. It's kind of why I set him up. I think we're all going to get the Jags right. TC's going to get the Steelers wrong. We'll see. We will see. Last game of the Pick Six, the Cleveland Browns 4-2 at the Seattle Seahawks, who are also 4-2. Seattle's 3-point home favorites. That's the standard. Over-under is 40 points in this one. The 4:00 window of games on Fox right here, 4:05 kickoff. Former XFL player P.J. Walker will get the start for the Browns. Running back Jerome Ford is doubtful as well. Seahawks are home. Got to go Seattle here. It's pretty simple for me. I don't know if P.J. Walker can lead this team to a road victory. He's good enough to do it. He gets the chemistry down with the wide receiver, Amari Cooper. Anything can happen. They got a good run game, even with Ford out. They'll still have Kareem Hunt. David Njoku there as a tight end, kind of a mismatch too. They got Moore, so we'll see what happens. But I think Seattle will cover this one. Wayne, what say you?
Well, I'm taking the Browns and the points on this one because they've got some momentum of their own, and I just got a feeling they're ready to unleash it on the Seahawks, of course, who everyone here should know I do not like at all.
Yeah, no, they got a stingy defense. It's kept them in every ball game. Stefanski's coaching them up in Cleveland, and they quietly have had a pretty good storybook season, despite losing Nick Chubb to a season-ending injury. Larry is taking, drum roll please, the Browns and the points. He's a smart man like yourself, I guess. This is where we may get a little separation on this pick six. And TC's also taking the Seahawks along with myself. So 2 Seahawks, 2 Browns. that wraps up our pick six. That wraps up our show for the most part. Let's get to our final thoughts of the evening. We got a couple of them. Real quick, Wayne, right up your alley. Navy's going to the AAC for football only. Will replace Southern Methodist, who shot put for the ACC. Rangers Diamondbacks in the Fall Classic. I know you're happy. Got your Rangers hat on.
Yep.
And the NBA tipped off last night. The Hawks are currently playing the Charlotte Hornets, and they're in a battle in the third quarter. They're down by 2. So we will see. Busy time of year. What happens next? But again, NBA tipped off. So lots of final thoughts there. Wayne, your final thought of the evening.
Well, this Sunday at 2 p.m. in the FedEx Forum is the first exhibition game for the University of Memphis Tigers basketball, and they'll be playing at SIAC school Lane College, whose coach is a former point guard for University of Memphis, was Memphis State back then. And it's Andre Turner. So that'll be a pretty cool one to go see. It's not going to be on TV or radio anywhere, so you have to download the University of Memphis app if you want to keep up with it. And you just go in any browser and type in the word Go Tigers Go, and you'll get all the links you need.
That is it. Folks, again, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and follow to our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify at ATL Prime Sports. That's Wayne. I'm JJ for TC and Larry. This has been ATL Prime Sports. Until next week's, ladies and gentlemen, get you one. See you later.